Hey everybody, it's Brandon back with another real discussion. So, I wanted to talk today about Last of Us 2. Now, for those of you who don't know, I am a huge Naughty Dog fan. Um, I've fallen in love with them ever since the first Uncharted. Played every single one of them, loved them. Played Last of Us, which was my favorite game on the PlayStation 3, and I've even played the remastered one for my PlayStation Pro. Love the game, and they are definitely pioneers in cinematic gameplay and very fleshed out original characters, beautiful graphics, and engaging and fun gameplay. And surprisingly fun multiplayer. Uh, all of those games, Uncharted, Last of Us, had really fun multiplayer, which you usually don't see in games that have such a strong storyline. But I digress. So I have been waiting. I was super enthusiastic about Last of Us 2. And then the leaks and stuff started happening, and I'm like, know what? I ain't gonna listen. I ain't feeding into the negativity. I trust in Naughty Dog. And then I started playing. And I gotta admit, man, I was blown away. I mean, the graphics are incredible, realistic, lifelike. Like, they went into some incredible detail. Say whatever you want about the game. They definitely didn't skimp there, and they definitely used the maximum of what the PlayStation is able to offer. Um, I was really impressed with the gameplay, and I'm going to talk about that more here in a bit. But I really like some of the things that they changed. But we got to get into the big elephant in the room, I'm going to say the story. And I got to admit, if I'm really honest, I was very disappointed in the story. And if you're listening to this and you haven't played, spoiler, I was very disappointed in Joel's death. I thought he was just such an incredible character in the first one and so important that I thought taking him away, the way they did it was disrespectful to the character. And I thought that it was basically cheap. Like, I was like, this relationship. And we can argue, I know they've released their statements on, well, the character has evolved. This isn't the same character, but I mean, I don't see that happening to Joel, where he's trusting some stranger, and basically it's led into an ambush. When Joel was always the one ambushing people. But that's whatever. It is what it is. I'm here to talk about the game as a whole. But yeah, besides that, the story is okay. Now, in full disclosure, I'm at the second part. The story itself is okay, and they did do a few things that I thought were cool that helped salvage the story some for me, because they did do some of the flashbacks where you got to see the different interactions with the character. I thought those were nice, but I also felt like the way they positioned it slowed down the action some, and I thought it didn't quite flow as well as they probably wanted it to. But I think the fact that you're playing with the person who's the villain in the story, I think I think for a company that always took risks, I think they took some unnecessary ones, and I think there were some definite. I'm not gonna say political, but there was definitely some political elements that they wanted to put in it. Um, Not even necessarily with like Ellie, because Ellie I thought was very consistent to the character that she's been the entire series. Um, but I will say, the glimpse in the story aside, I do want to talk about the changes in gameplay. And I will say that, again, I think gameplay wise, they knocked it out of the park. They kept the elements from the previous one, which was all about you got to be clever, you have limited resources, you got to choose if you're going to make weapons or you're going to make medicine. I gotta admit, I think they made it easier really than they should have been. But I get it. The places you're going are more developed than in the previous game, so it makes more sense that there's going to be more supplies because you're going into more populated areas. So I'm going to give them that. But I like the changes in the gameplay. I like the dodge element that they added to the melee. I like that the AI has gotten smarter. So in the previous game, they kind of just ran at you. Now they like duck to the side and they'll come around and ambush you, and they will swarm you. And it means that you have to use your weapons more than you might think you do, because you can't just go in there and wail on like 5 people like you could in the previous game. You got to add that extra strategy element, and they definitely added like some gritty realism to the fighting, to the throat slashing when you're doing the stealth attacks, the crawling on the ground, and that element, like I thought was really clever and a nice little addition to the game. I like the way they did it, some of the upgrades with the silencer and things like that. So I thought they added some nice things to it. Even though them damn dogs are annoying as hell. I love dogs, and I admit at first I was reluctant, like, man, I don't want to shoot the dog. Maybe I can kill the owner and the dog will be fine. But after your first time getting chopped down by them dogs, man, you start to hate dogs in this game. But I digress. Gameplay, the changes and stuff like that was brilliant. Graphics was brilliant. And really, if it wasn't for some of the choppiness of the storyline, this would definitely have been the dream game that I wanted it to be. I'm looking forward to finishing up the last little bit that I have of it. I already kind of know what's going to happen because spoilers and stuff have come out. But I am going to give the game a solid 9 out of 10. Now, that's a pretty big drop. Well, I'm not even going to say 9. I'm fronting. That's nostalgia talking. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10. And I think that if it wasn't for the choppiness of the story, I could definitely give it, that 9.5, 9.8 out of 10. I always gave the original like a 9.7, so I think it could have been better. I think if they had been less choppy with the story. And that's kind of my feedback for you designers out there. If you're going to get rid of a classic character, do it. It's cool that you're not afraid to do it. Try to do it in a little bit of a respectful manner and make it a death that isn't pointless, to be honest. Like, it's there to fuel the story. And it's a bit half-handed because that's what happened with Sarah at the beginning of the last one. And I think I probably would have felt more about the death if it had happened in another scenario. Just random shot in the head and he's out, saving her from something, heart attack. Like, I would have probably been like, oh, whatever. But I digress. I'm still looking forward to the next thing that Naughty Dog puts out. I'm still a Naughty Dog fan. We can talk crap about this game all we want, but it's still better than 90-something% of the crap that's released these days. So it's definitely a solid game. It's just not the masterpiece that I think a lot of us were hoping that it would be. That's it for the review, guys. If you like these kind of things, I do plan on doing more gaming and movie reviews. Just trying to broaden the kind of content that I do provide for you guys. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.